Hey,
Hey.
hey,
Hey!
Hey,
hey, Dev.
Hey, Drew.
What's your favorite video game?
Ooh. All right. So, my favorite series right now is the Shantae series.
Hmm.
I think my favorite video game is still Borderlands 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, here I thought you were gonna say had a full boyfriend, but I guess I'm incorrect.
Yep.
So the
It's the
reason why
burbs.
the verbs. Um, so the reason why I asked is a few weeks ago I was suggested a video from a creator called Nasu called "Why I Don't Play My Favorite Game,"
Okay.
and it's kind of a wonderful reasoning as to what he considers his drive and like the replay value of his favorite game, which we won't really rehash. But it's kind of a shout out because it was actually re-suggested to me recently.
Okay.
So I rewatched it and I wanted to get your thoughts on it, and I think it would prove to be an interesting discussion.
All right.
While I was watching the video, of course, I was thinking about my gameplay, right?
Yeah.
Uh Because what's the best way to ask this? What do you think my favorite game is?
Obviously, Zelda. Oh, your favorite game? Hmm. See, the obvious bait is going to be Destiny 2, but I know that's not your favorite game. It's just a game you play a lot.
And that's the bait is the exact reason why I asked that question, because as of yesterday when I played, I am probably one play session away from 5,000 hours of game time in Destiny 2.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I know that one is clearly a bait. I honestly see. I can see it going either way. I can see something like something Diablo-like, or something very narrative-based, like Gris.
Okay, very good observation. Of course, you're probably one of the people who knows me best. If I were to say my favorite series, as you introduced, would probably be the reboot of the Tomb Raiders.
Mm.
Wonderful, great gameplay. Not compelling, but a good story.
I would argue that the first of the remakes is probably one of the best survival horrors that I've played in ages.
I agree. And honestly, that is a video essay on its own too.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree with that. And then two games that are very high up there are probably Torchlight 2 and Grim Dawn, which are your Diablo likes.
Yeah.
But my favorite one, I would have to say, is based on Impact. Gris.
Yeah.
So, and in Gris, let me just pull up my game library here. I played a total of 3.4 hours.
It is an amazing game. I definitely put it on the top of my list, and everyone can literally see how much time I've played in that game. There's a playlist. I'm sure Drew will link it if he remembers.
I've only missed like 2 or 3 times, and on 100 videos, that's
It's not
pretty
bad.
impressive. Yeah. Well, after we started doing the cards.
Yeah.
So I guess the first thing that I kind of want to explore here, and Borderlands 2 is probably similar in many aspects to Gris as to why we like it and like them, because I actually think Borderlands 2 is pretty high too. There is a combination of compelling narrative combined with interesting and dynamic gameplay.
Yes.
So I think that a favorite will generally be the intersection of those two things. You can exclude the concept of replayability from it.
Well, that's an interesting thing when we're talking about favorite games, because there's an important distinction, I guess, reasons to make a game a favorite or not. So again, we talked about the games for impact. Like it is, Gris is up there for me as well as a narrative. And generally, narrative's important in a game, but it's not the big thing when I'm talking about games in general. The other aspect of the favorites is, are you going to go back to it? Borderlands 2 ends up being a perennial. Portal tends to be another perennial game. It's like, no, I'm just going to go back and play it again. But I don't necessarily know if I'd go back and play Gris again. I don't know if I'd get that same impact again.
But the thing is, the thing that puts it on that list is there's something about Gris that makes it maintain its position without you even having the need or desire to play it again.
Yeah.
Because the impact was that deep.
Yeah.
Whereas if we're looking at Borderlands, specifically 2, because I got a lot of opinions about the others. Pretty much goes 2 Tiny Tinas and then probably 3 pre-sequel, 4 1. No, 1's higher than 4. Anyways.
Yeah. 1 was it was still getting its legs. All of the framework was there for 1. Then they headed out of the park and they've been chasing that since.
Well, I mean, the same could be said about Remnant and Remnant 2.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing but improvements going into the
Yeah.
Remnant 2.
Yeah.
But there is a very satisfying gameplay loop with Borderlands 2. Like, I would say narratively, it's got a decent story. However, or decent story, decent world building. And what really kind of carries those things together and keeps you interested is like the true looter shooter gameplay loop.
Yeah.
And you don't even necessarily have to grind the same 3 mobs to get a specific gun or grenade or whatever. You can have fun without that, and you can make those classes truly yours.
Yeah.
Based on preferences. Aside from like a few very specific classes, like builds are what you want. I mean, you can min-max, but
yeah, even with those specific builds, like I have run so many different builds into those raid bosses, and everything seems viable. I mean, there's clearly some that could be, considered the best by doing that grind for that specific weapon, but just the fact that you can build a class and not have to have the best and be viable throughout the entire game is, it's a good loop.
Well, I guess when everything is broken, you don't have to worry about balance too much, to be honest.
Oh, I mean, that's a big thing with the game, too. It's like, no, this isn't PvP. I don't care if it's broken. Let's go.
Now, as far as, like, gameplay loops going and replayability, it's weird because, like, I play a considerable amount of Destiny 2, and it's simply because I like the gameplay loop.
Yeah.
The overall story is actually really good, but the way that they tell it is not actually that good. It's literally a couple cutscenes, a couple campaign missions, and then a bunch of lore tabs in an inventory, right? So, like, how do I know what's going on? I have to sit with a creator like My Name is Bife in the background doing his 4-hour, this is the complete story of Destiny, for me to actually understand who the heck these characters are and how they relate to each other.
Yeah. Or Silvermont for the Soul series.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's like it's there, you can piece it together, but
Do you
what I'm here for?
do you have the time? I'm here to play a game. I'm here to enjoy myself.
Well, that's one of the things why when I play games, and I've had this argument, it's like, I like narrative. It's good, but it is not what makes me go and play the games. I'm not playing Dark Souls for the lore. It's there. It's cool. There's amazing environmental storytelling. And I mean, I think some of that comes from, us being gamers of old. Like your Metroids and your, like, the only way you have any type of story from there is the environmental storytelling. Nothing else. You're not even getting a cutscene to tell you what's happening.
I mean, when you're looking at games like, say, Elden Rings with these like extremely beautiful vistas,
mhm.
um, and really intriguing like boss designs. I guess the entire Soul series is pretty good with that. You don't necessarily need a cutscene to tell part of the story.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably sacrilege, but I definitely think there could be a little bit more storytelling in the Souls games. Uh, one thing that I like that we kind of put aside in our options here is our choices don't appear to be influenced by like an experience with others, or rather like a time period.
Yeah.
For instance, Final Fantasy VII. I could consider that in many ways to be a contender for favorite game, but there's some glaring points and reasons why it wouldn't, and most of them are interpersonal, but when I consider it, it doesn't have anything to do with the game itself.
Mm.
The game is fine. The Final Fantasy 7, 6, 7, and 8 are just fine. Like, reasonably. The reason why I enjoy 7 so much was because when I was playing it, I had two friends that were also playing it, and we would like hang out in the garage, and all three of us would be playing on 3 different PlayStations. And like at any two goes, we'd have someone using Mimic on Knights of the Round.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Or no, what was it? Reflect on your characters, then you cast Knights of the Round on yourself, and then you mimic that.
Yep.
And then you beat Sephiroth in one turn or whatever.
The old reflect, cast Viagra all on us.
So there's always there is always that influence though, that like, was it that you enjoyed Overwatch so much and that it was so highly regarded, or was it the experiences you had with the people you were playing with?
Well, it's actually a reason why, one of a few reasons that I can't put Overwatch on that list. I've got a lot of hours in that game. I quite enjoyed it. But yeah, my enjoyment of that game came from the experiences and the one-offs that happened while playing the game with friends,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those big moments where, it's just because we wanted to have memes. I'm sitting around playing Diva, and everyone else goes support. So it's Diva and the Quint supports, and the other team just can't get past it because the Diva just has all the health forever. Because what else is everyone else doing? Right? Moments like that. But yeah, to call that a favorite game, it's like, nope, just a lot of good social moments in the game.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I can attribute the same to Destiny, right?
Yeah.
When I started playing it, I had a good crew. We got to experience and go from like beginner players to endgame players together. And then I guess from there, I went to like solo endgame stuff. And
Well,
as their attention kind of died out, I still continued with it because it's a satisfying gameplay loop. It's coming to a conclusion. I want to see it through.
yeah.
But
And at the same time, look how many trash games you and I have played because they were the only things we could find that had some co-op.
well, that's the thing, and that's one of the other things that I was thinking when I was rewatching the Nasu video was Hellpoint is not a good game.
No.
It's a Hellpoint 2 could be a good game.
Yeah, I could see that, and I've
Yeah.
learned some things. Yeah.
The reason why I enjoyed it so much was playing it with you.
Yeah.
God Eater was another one.
Mm.
That we just ripped through.
Yeah.
And like at first we were both kind of like, do we actually like this game? And by the end of it we had 3 new inside jokes.
Yep.
And it really was just a case to like hang out, BS, and just
Kill
play a
some
game.
monsters.
Yeah. Yell at a ladder in game, and Dev go, "I'm sorry, I'm doing my best." I'm like, "No, it's the ladder."
But to be fair, that happened in a good game.
True.
Good game is Remnant 2.
quite a good game. I enjoy it. I mean, we'll probably talk about the games that we played over the last year during our year in review,
Of course.
which I suspect might actually be released after this one, like the one after this one. But I don't know, because it this is definitely being recorded in advance.
We would never do that. Everything's live. Everything's recorded like 3 months in advance.
We try.
We try.
Well, like, how long did we sit on Bell for? It was like
Oh,
3 or 4
man.
months.
Oh, yeah.
And then we like
Yep.
sat on it to release it on the same day it came out in the North American market.
Yep. We were going to do that with
Oh, Boy and the Heron.
Boy and the Heron, but we couldn't find it.
Stupid.
I mean, we watched it once we legally could watch it.
We couldn't find it in a legally streamable or viewable way.
Yep.
So we had to wait until theaters.
Yep. Man, it was nice going to see that in theaters.
There's a few scenes that I really enjoyed in theaters, but other than that,
I've just never seen a Miyazaki film in theater. No, wait, I've seen one in theater.
I saw a couple.
Wait, that's not games.
No, just go to the theater of your local university at least twice a year. They're gonna have some like Ghibli marathon.
Oh, 100%.
So one of the value concepts that we like to throw around is, you and I used to do it for movies, back when going to the theater was a reasonable cost. And that was money versus hours of enjoyment, right?
Yes.
I mean, but I don't think that applies to video games in the same way.
People try to make it apply to video games in the same way, and yeah, we've had a few games where we've talked about that.
I think more of a case though, like the quality of the video game is something beyond the monetary aspect. It can be a negative, but I don't think it's necessarily a positive. For instance, if you play a 7-hour game that costs you $70 and it's a bad game, the monetary aspect comes into it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you pay, $70 and it's a 7-hour game and it's one of the best experiences you've had, it doesn't necessarily apply.
Yeah. A lot of Nintendo games actually fall into that for me. So, like Metroid games.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Nintendo sells all their games at full prices, even their remakes.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. That's just how they do it. But I've always said, it's like, I will probably always buy the Nintendo console because I always know there's going to be 3 games on it that I'm going to enjoy. Right? So I have no problem spending that money because there's that consistency there. So yeah, you're right. There's definitely games we've played where it's like, yeah, probably wasn't a full price game. Redfall being an example. Even though it had the length of content to it, it didn't have the quality of content that made me feel it's a full price game.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have games like Hollow Knight, which is the the traditional indie $20 game, where I'm like, this should have been easily a full price game because I played it for 60 hours.
So that's
yeah, no, you're right. It doesn't fall into games the same way.
Yeah, it's kind of like an interesting concept though, for to step to that analysis real. So it could be a negative point, but a positive value, I guess
Yeah.
you could say. So if you played Hollow Knight and you thought it was worth like the $70, well, it's not even $70 mainstream game anymore. That was it 90 base package mainstream game. That's a positive value.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the opposite aspect, Redfall,
Yeah.
the fact that we paid full sticker for something that reasonably should have been a $20-$25 game.
Yeah. Oh, we did way more than full sticker.
Yeah, was definitely a negative aspect to the game because of the lack of enjoyment, right?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder because, like, I think the majority of people that say play GTA Online would not consider GTA Online to be their favorite game. They would
Yeah,
definitely have some of their favorite moments in it.
yeah.
But for GTA lovers, which I am not, I could see them being like, GTA, 5 or Vice City is my favorite game of all time.
Hmm.
Because there is this kind of like interesting world and weird coterie of like dysfunctional characters and how they interact, right?
Wait, people play those games not to just like drive around and like run over prostitutes?
Apparently.
Monsters.
How dare you? You've ruined our childhoods.
Well, I mean, that's actually a good example of just like, cost for game. Like, there are very few open world games that I like. I can't justify spending $60 on any open world game because I know that most open world games.
Zelda probably being an exception, right?
Zelda very much being an exception. And it doesn't matter, even if it's like a $20 game, it's like, I'm probably not going to buy this. The only exception that I've ever run into was Saints Row, but that's because of what we've already touched on. I had a good social aspect of that one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was playing it with my buddy. You get to run around with a giant purple dildo as a melee weapon. It's good times.
And in the final edit, giant purple redacted.
What? It's a movie that shouldn't be named?
What's the thing? Like, take Gotham Knights, for example. It was quite clear, and I've apologized already a couple times for how anti I was becoming at the end of it. Because I hate when people do that because it takes away from the gameplay.
Yeah.
But legitimately, the only reason why I enjoyed that gameplay loop was because I was playing with you, my friend. That's a game I would have picked up, and 5 hours later, I've been like, I'm never touching this again. I can't believe I can't get my refund now.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a different experience with it. Well, yes, that game had its issues.
But they were triggering me in just the ways that really irritated me.
Oh yeah, in just the right way. It was amazing. It's like, I've seen you deal with worse.
I'm sitting here and I'm like, you've seen me in emotional shambles, in physical shambles, in both. And like, there was something about that game that was ruining me more than that.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it too, I think if I was playing a different character than I was, I might have run into those similar issues. But Batgirl played enough like the Arkham games that it was easy for me to slip into. To the point that even though I just bought all the Arkham games, I'm like, I can't play this because I know there's just enough difference that it's going to mess me up real bad. Like when they put the dodge button on the wrong button.
Looking at you, Remnant 2.
Right?
So I guess like what we find there is the amount of time that you put into a game doesn't necessarily reflect how favorable you are to the game. I mean, there's a reason why I got you to play Gris, but I haven't gotten you to play Destiny.
Right.
I've shown you some of the cool stuff that I like about Destiny. But I mean, no one should play an MMO. I mean, that's one thing. The other concept here, one thing that I was surprised about, and this is something that was touched upon in the Nasu video, was you're actually a little bit unique, it seems, where you can go back and play your favorite games or your top games, and enjoy them to that level. Whereas, like me, I'm probably not gonna pick up Gris again, unless it's to get like the 2 achievements I didn't get.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'm thinking is like, kind of be nice to get that completion, but
I'm not gonna pick up Lone Sails.
Yeah. Well, and
Torchlight 2.
Yeah. Well, and there's a couple things with that. So again, my one of my favorite games again is the Shantae series. So Shantae and the Pirate's Curse in particular. I can never go and play that game casually because I've I've learned to speedrun, so when I'm picking it up, it's like, let's just see if I can push it that little bit further.
Mhm.
Uh, and that in no way takes away from the enjoyment of the game. Like, I mean, I could casually go through and, you know, actually watch and read the dialogue because there's some funny stuff in there.
Yeah.
Um, but there's just something about the gameplay, and uh, mostly playing Metroidvanias, it's one of those things like, yeah, the gameplay is everything in those. So yeah, I'll go and pick up Hollow Knight again because I just want to run around with that version of the mechanics, or Super Metroid. For me to go back and play, thought of going back and playing like Near Automata
Mhm.
or Near Replicant, it's just like, I know they're not going to have that same feeling.
Mhm.
And that's actually one of the big things with Dark Souls in particular. Much like Gris, you wanted me to play it because you knew you couldn't experience it again. But you
Yeah.
wanted me to experience and vicariously experience through me experiencing it.
My only regret there is that it was made an interactive experience with me rather than a full encompassing experience had you played it, alone.
Yeah.
Ago. But I mean, I think it still had a very positive effect.
Yeah. But I mean, like, one of the bigger Dark Souls channels, and honestly, like I have another channel where, try to do the Let's Plays and live streams and such, and a lot of reviewers that we did have was my friend playing Dark Souls for the first time, because there was enough people going, it's like, ooh, I can't wait, I want to watch someone learn this world and experience this world.
Mhm.
You can never capture that, but you can capture that. Again, you vicariously capture that from someone else. And I think that's why a lot of the Impact games aren't going to get replayed.
Well, that's really funny that you bring that up, and this actually kind of like makes a lot of sense. So, like, my Destiny crew, we play other games too, but
I think I've played a couple of games with them.
yeah, actually,
Yeah.
yes, and a very good buddy of mine, I motorcycle with him a lot. We're sitting there, and he comes in, he's like, "Oh, hey, they're just giving away the RTX version of Portal if you own Portal, which I own." I'm
Mm.
like, "Oh, that's cool. I'll install that. I have like a really good computer." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this will be cool. I'm gonna play this. I've never played it before." And like, just the silence. And then all of a sudden, "You haven't played Portal before?" So he literally like got me to stream via Discord and watched me play the entirety of Portal because I had not experienced it before and he wanted to see how I would solve these things.
Oh, yeah. It's massive. Like, especially in a game like that, it's like, there's no way you can ever capture that gameplay again. I'll go back and play Portal and Portal 2 again because it's got that comedy in the way it's written and such, but it'll never be about the puzzles and solving the puzzles again.
That makes it kind of overhyped.
I mean, one big thing you got to remember is Portal was kind of a trendsetter. There weren't many games like that at the time. It was a free game. And, for the 3 hours that the first Portal is, pretty much hits everything it needs to. It doesn't overstay its welcome. The puzzles are fun and engaging.
The jokes from the fans sure did.
Yeah.
And that's
Also, the cake is not a lie. You can break it. You can find it.
you can beat the game and get the cake. You need speedrun strats, but I've watched multiple speedruns. And for someone who doesn't speedrun, I've watched an amazing amount of speedruns. Actually, I got a buddy who was doing Diablo 2 pacifist speedruns, and he was a record holder for like a long ass time. Anyways. People who play solely the like online like FPS games or MOBA games, like it'd be hard pressed to find one of them that would say like that's their favorite game.
Yeah.
In fact, they probably call themselves degenerates for even liking them. Going in and playing like Modern Warfare or freaking, I don't know, Titanfall or Dota or LoL.
I mean, like, thinking of like the Titanfall and, you know, Call of Duty, Battlefield, all that. It's like, thing is, there's a lot of crossover between all the games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the loyalty isn't to the game. The loyalty is to which games my friend's playing. So yeah, I can't see many people saying any of those is going to be their particular favorite, especially because they're not playing it for the story modes, which becomes abundantly clear when I hear people talking about the stories in games like, what's the one FPS that everyone's like, oh, this game is so deep, blah blah blah, an anti-war message.
Like Black Ops?
No, it's not COD, it's Spec Ops.
Okay.
Spec Ops: The Line.
I actually don't know anything about Spec Ops lore, so.
All right. Well, the big thing is you know, it's all anti-war, and you were the bad guy the whole time, and blah blah blah. And,
Spoilers.
yeah. Well, the game's like what, 15 years old. Deal with it. But like, people, like, they always put it on again on that games with impact, the first-person shooter genre, and I'm like, so, like, I'd never played Spec. Like, I think I played a little bit of Spec Ops, never beat it or whatever. But I was playing one of the Call of Duties, like Modern Warfare 3 or something, with my friend. And because I'm actually paying attention to the game, because I'm not playing the PvP, I'm playing the campaign mode, I'm like, huh, this story is a very similar message, what everyone's praising Spec Ops for,
Mm-hmm.
but crapping on Call of Duty for. It's like, clearly they've never actually played the game, or they just can't pick up nuance because it didn't spell it out for you.
Mm. Well, and there could be like bandwagonism, like sports team stuff. Because
Yeah.
you see that, like, my game versus your game, they're the same game. Or, you know, my politics versus your politics, or the same people who dislike Zelda games and the crazies that like it.
Well, the reason I mentioned this one in particular is because I've never seen anyone talk about a Call of Duty game and the story and message that's within the game, like I have Spec Ops: The Line. So it's very similar to what we were talking about when we were discussing The Boy and the Heron or Squid Game, where it's like, I don't believe you have seen or interacted with this type of media as much as you claim you have. More that feeling, especially when it's game reviewers talking about this stuff.
I mean,
Yeah, I know.
there's very much a reason why people will go to individual content creators to get a review over outdated blogs, and it's
Oh, yeah.
because it's very obvious that games journos are bought out.
Oh yeah.
There's a reason why it's called access journalism. It is not some conspiracy theory. It's literally, if you give a bad review, you don't get the next game.
Yeah. Or in the case of, well, I want to say it was Polygon.
There was a
Where they
couple. I
got-
think
they got-
Polygon
where
was
they-
banned. Was it Nintendo altogether?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens when Polygon comes around. It's like, here's how you pirate Zelda.
Yeah. Good work, guys.
Yeah, it's like...
How am I supposed to get this review? There's 200 hours gameplay. It's like, you weren't going to play it for more than 2. That's if you could get past the jump at the beginning of the game.
Did you ever see... Was it you who showed me the... Was it the...
Cuphead?
You know, it was Cuphead, the Cuphead reviewer versus a pigeon?
Nope, I did not show you this. I need to find this.
There's this puzzle a pigeon has to solve, and it's put next to the guy, the game reviewer. What mag was that for? Was that IGN?
I think it was IGN.
Trying to get past the tutorial of Cuphead and failing to do a basic jump for like minutes. Which, mind you, I am gonna give him a little bit of a benefit. Buddy was probably looking to be just a regular journalist, and wasn't really that much of a gamer. But like that was the journo position he could get into.
Yeah.
Like I respect the grind, but like the fact that they let that get past.
Was it? I think it was IGN. You know, I know we've already said, yeah, not a good game with Redfall. I think it was. I want to say it was Maddie Plays is the channel, but he saw like the IGN review and then he played it and it's like, you know, it's not as bad as it was looking to be. It ended up being generic, but he was doing it through like at the E3 or something, and he just compares his gameplay through to like the IGN one, and the IGN one has a cut like every 2 seconds. So it was so clear that they just didn't know how to play like the basics of a first-person shooter and had to just keep cutting it.
I think I saw that. Well, the thing there is, like Redfall was okay.
Yeah.
Again, it's
okay.
Indie game prices.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think you mentioned this to me, which kind of repositioned myself. Like it fell towards the hype because it came through Bethesda. But the thing is, Bethesda has a bunch of game studios under them. Bethesda's the publisher, right?
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of people were having such a negative reaction.
Yeah. Well, and that's just,
but
people overhype things too much. That's on them.
So I guess the moral of the story is there's a lot of like interesting aspects that you really got to consider when you're thinking about what is actually your favorite game. And I'm not going to fault someone whose favorite game is, I don't know, RuneScape.
Yeah.
Because maybe it legitimately is. I mean, not everybody can have a favorite game like you, like Monster Girl Sleepover 3 Double XL Edition.
I mean, you gotta call me out like that.
That being said, if you are a gamer or not even a gamer, if you have a game that you really enjoy, a mobile game, a browser-based game, or even a game in your youth, such as, Tetris or Mario 3, put it in the comments.
Yeah.
And if anything that we've said has kind of made you reevaluate your position on certain games and your list has changed, I really want to know, like, what game was your favorite and what is it now after these considerations?
Yeah, it's very true. Out of curiosity, what was Nasu's favorite game that he can't play?
He said a couple. One of the things he said that is he was a huge Nier Automata fan, and he bought Replicant because he so intensely wants to play the game, but he just can't bring himself to do it. Because of the aspect of trying to recapture a moment that he had previously.
Yeah.
And he actually brought up Portal as well. With the same kind of aspect. So it's really interesting. Of course, I'm going to link that video in the Discord and in the description below. I guess with that, this has been Beauty and the Beast. Hey, Devon.
Hey, Drew.
If you enjoy what we do, please check out beerandthebeast.com for a full list of services we're available on, or join the conversation. The comments are at our Discord.